Now, did I just read a 5-book series that was meant for between 8 and 13-year-olds? Yes. And did I completely overanalyze it? Absolutely. Am I going to let my kids read it? Yes. Maybe a very slow yes, as long as they, have read the basics, like A Tale of Two Cities, and The Count of Monte Cristo, and Moby Dick, War and Peace, and Crime and Punishment, just to, name a few. Once they finish those, yeah, they can read Fablehaven, sure. Editor, can you just put, spoiler alert, like big red letters, just right here, exclamation point, all of that? Thank you. Appreciate it. You might get a bonus for that. Instead of just criticizing, I'm going to try to limit my criticisms to 3 areas. Number 1, lack of character development. Number 2, heavy dialogue. And number 3, broken story structure. Now, the main characters, Kendra and Seth, are basically Violet and Dash from The Incredibles, just without the incredible part. Kendra is cautious, obedient, and deals with self-confidence issues. Seth, on the other hand, has no fear. He's disobedient, and he's basically that immature brat that you wish would just get stomped on, so he could finally grow up, mature, and learn his lesson. But he never does. And that is my biggest issue with his character. Over the course of all 5 books, he repeats the same pattern over and over and over. Kendra kind of grows up. She becomes less afraid, and she develops her abilities. She has her powers as well. So Seth's pattern that he repeats over and over is basically that someone older and wiser than himself, like his grandparents, tell him not to do such and such a thing because it's dangerous. But more than just dangerous, it's a bad thing to do. And Seth will inevitably go and do that thing. Then a lot of bad things happen. People get hurt. Some people die. And there's no punishment. They basically say, Seth, oh, you shouldn't have done that. Small little slap on the hand, but no real consequences, no discipline. And the worst part is that everybody knows he's going to just do it again and again and again. It gets really frustrating. That's going to be my alternative to the story. How you can fix the story. Put Seth in a straitjacket, put him down in the basement, put him in the quiet box. How about that? Put him in the quiet box, and nothing bad would happen. He'd also live forever. He'd be immortal. So he'd probably think that was super cool. It's a win-win to me. I think that's the way to do it. Now, heavy dialogue. Brandon Mull does this thing where I call it the sit and talk. You'll never guess what that actually means. All the characters gather around and they sit and talk. Yeah, all the characters will get together and they'll sit in the study or the living room or the kitchen, and they'll just talk. They'll take turns explaining the situation, what's happening, even though you already know what's happening. And then they'll explain everything that could, should, and would happen, and couldn't, shouldn't, and wouldn't happen in that situation. I understand if you need to do that maybe once per book to give your audience the lay of the land, to help them get their bearings with the story. But all the time, it just gets a little redundant. And this brought up another problem. All the characters in the book, they talk exactly the same. We know that Tanu is this big Polynesian guy, but on face value, he talks exactly the same as Vanessa and Warren and Kendra and Seth and the grandparents, even the Sphinx. And there's not a real distinction between these characters. You could take the story, the chapter, or whatever, the book, remove all the characters and just line up the dialogue, and you wouldn't be able to tell who's speaking. Now, I know that's hard for authors to do. I know that even the best of authors are still working on that ability to describe your characters just to what they're saying and identify your characters to what they're saying. But as far as I can tell, Brandon Mull didn't really even try. Yeah, he didn't. On a side note, can Brandon Mull ever leave a question unanswered for longer than like 5 seconds? I noticed this as I got into like the second, third book, where he seemed to get into this pattern of answering his questions and tying up loose ends as quickly as he could. Obviously, he left the big questions, the bigger questions that you're reading the series for that you want answered at the end. Obviously, he left those unanswered. But the little questions, I mean, stories are made up of these little mysteries that happen, these little questions that you're like, I want to know why that happened. And boom, you'd have the answer right there for you every single time. So the situation that comes up that I remember was Kendra, when she became Stingbolt, and the fake Kendra, the Stingbolt Kendra, goes home and takes her place. And Seth doesn't realize that it's the fake Kendra. She acts a little weird, something's off. He doesn't know what it is, not yet. As soon as he finds out that she's not the real Kendra, the Stingbolt kills herself. Now in the story, Stingbolts don't last longer than 3 days, if I remember correctly. So why can't you just let the story play out for 3 days, and she's gonna die anyways, and your story can move on? But no, she had to just up and kill herself. I just thought it was a little weird, and I thought he missed an opportunity there because Kendra and Seth have been having issues with each other, similar to, or common with brother and sister relationships. And what the Stingbolt could have done is show what the relationship could have been or could be in the future. So maybe the Stingbolt comes home and does the things that Kendra never does. Maybe she goes out and does something crazy with Seth. Maybe she does something dangerous. Maybe she is adventurous. And then later there's another Stingbolt that takes Kendra's place. Yeah, there's kind of a lot of them, and maybe that relationship continues. Seth is, has a good relationship with this alternate Kendra. And then Kendra could see that and think, of course she'll be jealous at first, but then maybe she thinks, maybe I have been a little hard. Maybe I could actually give this a shot and try to build a relationship with Seth. And so then she learns from it, and in the end, they're happier, and there's progress to the story. Just a thought. Now to my last point, broken story structure. And this is, in my book, the biggest mistake you can make as an author in a story. When authors write a story, they have what's called a promise. And the author makes the promise at some point, basically saying, hey, we're audience, it's worth sticking with the story because we're going to end up here. Who knows what it is? Like in Harry Potter, it would be Harry Potter is going to defeat Voldemort. Now to the audience, it's more of a question. Is Harry Potter going to defeat Voldemort? Or, more specifically, how is Harry Potter going to defeat Voldemort? So, because we already know he's going to, and that's part of the promise. We know he's going to, so how is he going to get there? Now, what Brandon Mull does, he builds up this question. He points to the Society of the Evening Star and says, here's your enemy. Here's the one. Here's the people that are going down. And then he builds up the betrayal of, the betrayal. He builds up the Sphinx as the betrayer, the person that's undercover, who's actually leading the whole thing and trying to open Zyzix and release all the demons. And then he builds that up, and the Sphinx gets more power, he gets the Oculus, and you start to wonder the question, how are they going to take down the Sphinx? And then, unforgivably, you get to the last book. You get halfway through the last book, and you find out that the Sphinx isn't actually the bad guy. You find out that it's actually these random demons that we're going to take down, Growlithe and Nagiluna, whatever. And that promise is broken. And the Sphinx, well, he isn't really that bad. He wasn't really trying to hurt anybody. And, maybe we'll put him as one of the Haven Keepers. And he never wraps up the thought that he had everyone going on. So, again, big mistake. If you promise your audience something and then you don't fulfill that promise, it will leave your readers feeling let down, unsettled, and cheated, really. So don't do that. Don't do it. Just don't. Stick to your promises. So stay tuned, and we'll see you next time. Podcasting was supposed to be easy. I was going to sit here, I'm going to have my camera, I was going to have my mic, and you probably don't even care. 3.5 million copies of this book have been sold. People are going to watch a video about what the problem is with this series. Anyone I've talked to doesn't seem to have a problem at all with it. And they're adults. Am I recording?